Breaking tonight, Hillary Clinton's email problem may be far worse than we thought. The Democratic establishment blindsided this week as a bombshell report from the New York Times is raising serious political and now legal questions for the presumed 2016 Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton in a scandal that also lands squarely at the doorstep of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly. Tonight, some 48 hours after we first learned Secretary Clinton conducted all, that's the critical part, all of her State Department business on a private email account that for years appears to have gone under the radar, Mrs. Clinton is staying quiet, not bothering to address the controversy at a gala in Washington where she appeared. But the White House cannot avoid the questions. And tonight we investigate new claims that Mrs. Clinton's behavior here may amount to a felony, and whether the White House can successfully claim that it has no responsibility here. We begin tonight with Ed Henry, our chief White House correspondent. Ed?
Good evening, Megyn. Bottom line is this is expanding beyond a campaign issue into a question of accountability for the White House, where spokesman Josh Earnest now for 2 days has gotten dozens of questions about what the White House knew and when they knew it. I pressed him today on whether the president and his aides knew Secretary Clinton had her own email server at home. He admitted he was not sure. Pressed on the president, claiming he's all about cybersecurity, and yet White House aides emailed Secretary Clinton on her personal account for 4 years without standing up and saying maybe she could get hacked by the Chinese or others. And then meanwhile, 7 different congressional committees investigated Benghazi, and Secretary Clinton did not turn over her emails, which is why Republican Trey Gowdy tonight has now subpoenaed Secretary Clinton for those emails. It's clear at the very least that Secretary Clinton violated the guidance, if not the law, that the White House has made clear to all the agencies and departments about keeping records and being transparent. Listen. Why can't you have all these rules and laws? Why can't you just say she exercised poor judgment, even if you don't know if she broke the law? This is your guidance. It was not followed.
Yeah. Well, Ed, the question, and this was raised by Mike, is whether or not she was in compliance with the Federal Records Act. And in this case, again, if Secretary Clinton's team did what they said they did, then they would be in compliance with the Federal Records Act.
The key is where he said, if Secretary Clinton's team did what they said they did, which is turn over the large majority of her emails, then all is well. But he acknowledged multiple times, Josh Earnest, that the White House has not independently verified that, Megyn.
Right. So far, all we have is the word of the Clinton team. That's not how it's supposed to work. The federal agencies are supposed to have all these documents. They'll screen them. They'll take out the personal ones. Someone could be held accountable. Right now, it's just Hillary's people whose word upon which we apparently must rely. Ed, thank you.
Good to see you.
This goes much deeper than we thought it did. And we're going to get into this tonight. As we have mentioned, we're hearing serious questions now about whether Mrs. Clinton may have committed a felony by conducting all of her official government business on a private email account. It's not just the private email. You can have private email. It's what you do with the email thereafter that becomes the problem. You see, federal law makes it a crime punishable to up to 3 years in prison if someone has records and, quote, willfully and unlawfully conceals or destroys such records. Did she conceal those records for years when those 7 committees were demanding to see her personal correspondence, her professional correspondence? Moments before we came to air, I spoke to Fox News senior judicial analyst Judge Andrew Napolitano. So is she in trouble legally?
She's in a lot of trouble legally, and there's 2 sources of her trouble. One is if she retained on her personal email account using the Clinton server at her home or near her home in Chappaqua, New York, classified materials, classified documents. She arguably violated the same statute that General Petraeus has agreed that he will plead guilty to, which prohibits retaining classified information in a non-government, non-secured way. That's a misdemeanor. It's not a felony. There's no grand jury. There's no trial jury. But the punishment is up to a year in jail and a $100,000 fine for each document.
Does it have to be a willful thing? She's going to say, I did it all my information was there. I didn't do that willfully. I wasn't willfully flouting the law.
Well, she doesn't have to willfully flout the law, but she has to willfully retain the document. If she received a classified document or discussion about classified information, for example, we're going after Osama bin Laden. We think he's in Abbottabad, and that comes from the president or from the Secretary of Defense, and that is in her computer in her home,
right,
rather than secured in a government computer. She has violated the same statute that General Petraeus is going to plead guilty to.
What are the odds that when she did all of her emailing on the private account, that in her entire tenure as Secretary of State, she never sent or received anything classified, which is what the State Department's claiming right now?
In my view, it would be inconceivable. I don't know how she could do her job because she had the highest security clearance there is. She had the same security clearance as the president, the Secretary of Defense, and the head of the CIA, so that she could openly and clearly deal with these national secrets. It's inconceivable she never dealt with it.
All right, let's talk about number two, because number two would get her in even bigger trouble, and
Yes.
now we're talking potential felony.
Yes, number two. The other way that she's in trouble is a person who knowingly and willfully destroys or conceals government records. This is a felony punishable in jail by up to 3 years, and, are you ready for this, disqualification from holding public office under the United States of America in the future.
That is stunning.
Well,
what would they have to prove? That she knowingly did it, and that she unlawfully did it?
Yes, and the it is concealing from the government documents that she knew or ought to have known belonged to the government.
She's been turning over documents, but not all documents.
Correct, because instead of going to the government and saying, I want my personal documents, the government had to go to her and say, we want the governmental documents. So instead of the government giving her the personal ones, she decided what was personal and what was governmental.
And that's where we are today. That is the current status, that she has decided what we get and what we don't get.
That act of possessing and deciding is the act of concealment, which is made criminal by the statute.
We're going to see a battle on this front, potentially. Not under this Attorney General, but perhaps in the future. Judge, good to see you.
Pleasure.
The last time Hillary Clinton ran for the White House, she hammered the Bush administration over the issue of secret emails. Watch.
Our Constitution is being shredded. We know about the secret wiretaps. We know about the secret military tribunals, the secret White House email accounts. It is a stunning record of secrecy and corruption, of cronyism run amok.
What a hypocrite. I mean, it's obvious. Dana Perino's with me. She's co-host of The Five. She served as White House press secretary under President George W. Bush. Oh, she was horrified about the secret emails, and yet that's all she maintained.
And well, actually, what she is talking about in the Bush administration was an overabundance of caution to not violate the Hatch Act, which says that you cannot do political activity on your government account. So people were like, well, I don't want to violate the Hatch Act. But then you have the Presidential Records Act. It's one of the reasons
Right. I don't want to get too deep into it.
But that's one of the reasons that law was clarified that she voted for.
Right. Here's the thing. Her team is saying, on background, they're saying, look, the law changed in 2013, and that's the only time that you really, from that point forward, had to produce emails, had to save emails. Not true.
Not true.
Not true. And now the White House is saying, oh, gee, we're not sure whether we knew she had her own server. Not only was she using her own private email account for everything, her little home in Chappaqua, the servers were there. She maintained everything. We'll never know what was concealed or destroyed, will we?
No, I don't think so. And I think that the White House was right today to try to put a little distance between themselves and Hillary Clinton's team. They said, well, we don't know. If they said
they knew for years that she was
that's my
using
point.
a private account.
Is that they're a little bit pregnant because anybody who is at the White House, say the National Security Advisor gets an email from a Hillary Clinton personal email account, does no one have the judgment? Does no Democrat have the ability to say to her, this is wrong, it's illegal, you have to do this on an official account?
Right.
No one raises that. So the White House might try to distance themselves from it, but I think that they're culpable. And remember, the AP tonight said that they are going to consider filing a lawsuit about this because they've been asking for information and been stonewalled by the Hillary
7
people.
congressional committees have subpoenaed or demanded records, not to mention all the Freedom of Information Act requests that have gone to Hillary Clinton and the State Department regarding her behavior from Benghazi on down. And now what we're hearing tonight is they didn't get to her emails. They only got to what the State Department had. If she had emailed somebody within state, that's a total violation. This is beyond the pale. And it not only has legal implications, as we discussed with the judge, but this has major political implications for her future and ability to sell herself as something different than those Bushies whom she disdained in that soundbite.
It goes to an issue when you're voting for president of character and judgment. And I think in this case, I don't see how they explain that they were within the letter of the law. Because to me, it's a black and white issue. You have to use a government account in order to produce these emails. You can have a personal account, like if the server goes down and you need to get important information to a staffer, you can do that, but then you're supposed to make a copy of it and send it in.
Correct.
So there's the nitty-gritty details of it that might be a little boring for people, but if you look at the character and judgment issue, I think there's no question they're in trouble.
Is it going to stick?
I don't know. I think that it will drip. Okay, so if the AP, Associated Press, decides to file a lawsuit, it's not then just the 7 congressional committees. Then you actually have news organizations that are saying we were violated as well. That becomes a problem. The thing is that the Democrats don't have an alternative. It's unthinkable to them that she is not going to be their nominee. Mm-hmm. They don't have anybody on the bench. Elizabeth Warren might be, may have some reservations.
Now they're talking about Martin O'Malley, former Maryland governor.
It's unthinkable to them. They have no one. But the White House should be careful, and so should the State Department press people. You cannot say everything is fine, everything was taken care of, because they will be tripped up on something. So if the spokespeople, word of advice, just say, you're going to have to ask them, I don't know.
And let me tell you what Marie Harf said tonight. She said they will not be going back and examining whether her emails were produced in response to FOIA requests, Freedom of Information, that have already come in. I have news for you, Marie. Yes, you will be doing that. Trust me. Once the lawyers get a hold of you, you're going to be doing it. Great to see you. There's going to be much more on this story. This is bigger than we thought it was, and we're going to be talking about it a lot over the next coming days till we get to the bottom of what really happened. Do you think this could hurt Hillary Clinton's presidential campaign? Go to Facebook.com/The Kelly File right now and tell me what you think. Leave a comment on our page, and we'll continue to monitor those over the commercial break and beyond.